What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fye and Eric Sheetshaber. We're going to be talking through this NBA slate. It's nice. It's a little bit of a turbo slate on DraftKings. You got 1 hour gap, but you got a million games to go through. So I still want to encourage everybody to make sure you are late swapping, and I think that's extremely important. I probably am not going to be able to play tonight. I will do a video live later. But I wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. I also wanted to remind everybody we are going to be converting to most of our videos in the next couple of weeks are going to start turning into the premium packages. I think we have some great package options. If you guys want to take a look at that, I think this is a great time to do it. And with that said, Sheets, let's get into it. What do you think about this slate? Anything you want to go over? How was it yesterday for you? Anything?
Yeah, well, yesterday there was no NBA. It was just the one game. Yeah. The one game. But got a chance to watch that disgusting Denver football game. That was awful.
Literally one of the worst recent watch games in history. And I had a feeling it was like, I wrote it in the Discord. You know, I thought that the under and the Vegas was going to keep it close. I didn't think that there would be like Vegas was going to they have 7 drives without a first down.
Well, tied very closely to one of Denver's other showdown slates, which was the Sunday morning game against the Jets.
Against the Jets, the 13-11 overseas, yeah.
Yeah, and that was just as bad. You know, it was. I do have to shout out. I mean, I would say shout out or whatever. I don't even know why he was doing this, but obviously Geno Smith was like dying out there.
Yeah, okay? He really survived.
I mean, I don't know what. I mean, I guess it was a close game. They had to keep him in or whatever. But that's. I mean, like you got to have a little mercy on that guy. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I would be very surprised if he played next week. Let's put it that way.
I'm with you. I thought that was really, but I mean, I get it. The situation was like by the time he was really banged up, like it was kind of hard, like to know what to do. But it's not like they have like Pickett was a real pick at one point. So,
but you know what? It's like I don't know. It's just may sound like boomerish and old school, or whatever. But like for the same reason, like last week I was talking about the Steelers. Like the Steelers, like doesn't matter who's on their team, they have like kind of an identity. You know what I mean? Like from like the 70s, right? You're always whatever, and like. Even like the Raiders, like they could be bad, but they always try. You know what I mean? Like they always try. They always have had a terrible owner, okay? But they always try, and they're always tough. You know, like you got guys like Max Crosby there. You know, like basically demanding they play hard, and I'm not surprised that the Raiders, for whatever talent they have, they fight. You know, Denver is a team that is very vulnerable to taking like whole games off. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe they're not even good. That's possible too.
Yeah.
So that wasn't surprising that it was close.
Yeah.
It was surprising. How bad Denver was.
Yeah. And by the way, as the season goes on, look, Denver's that's one thing. Vegas, that's also another thing too. These are two pretty ugly teams sometimes, even though Denver's 8-2. But I think that as we go on, we have to really just keep that in our head that these Thursday games are going to get more and more like they're brutal at this time of year. You know what I mean? Playing on 3 days, and you're going to see a lot of that.
With that said, I know you know already what's going to happen.
What?
So next week, you know who Denver plays?
Who's that?
They're home against Kansas City.
Yeah,
and Kansas City is going to be like a 3-point favorite, and I'm going to be all over Denver.
Yeah. Right. But that's not a Thursday game, right? That's just a regular.
No, I think it's going to be a regular game.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Kansas City's only 2.5 or 3 over Denver. Denver's awful.
You're right. The perception is a crazy, and also that was a reason why I kind of liked the Raiders yesterday. Just the perception of they traded their best, all this stuff, and it's like, well, they're really no different, and they, like you said, they fight.
Can I tell you something really interesting? I don't know, maybe not that interesting. So Jacoby Myers, when they announced that he was traded. Yeah, the Raiders actually took some steam in the betting markets. Like, believe it or not.
That's interesting.
Well, what's really funny about that is that when they played Kansas City, the Raiders, like back in week 6 or whatever that was, week 5, whatever it was, they ruled out Jacoby Myers that Sunday morning.
Right.
And the Raiders took money again.
That is really weird.
Like Vegas hates Jacoby Myers for some reason. It's like I don't know. I just found that interesting.
Yeah.
All right, and okay, so here's the deal with the NBA again. Even though like nothing matters until we get near lock and you have to late swap and all that stuff, I still think that it's healthy if we have time to do these early looks, okay, to get an idea of what the slate could look like. So, like instead, for example, it's very possible that, listen, I ignore this. I'll show up my computer at 6:15, run stuff. I wouldn't even know that there's like all these games together at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it is a good idea to get a sense of what the slate can look like, and also just just get used to seeing how the technology works and stuff like that. So I'm not going to share my projections, but I will refer to them as we get to them. But my overall look on the slate, I mean, this is, listen, very first projection runs, is there's a shit ton of value. And with that being the case, I imagine that whatever spend ups exist, like Giannis, is going to be pretty freaking easy to get to, even at 11-6.
Yeah,
that's my initial take, but we'll go through game by game and try to
I'll
figure out
a take though on that. I don't know about how much of this value. I mean, I think there will be better value even. I don't know how much of this is I would call like Champagne is not good value ever. He might get there, but that's always a bad play, in my opinion. And he's 3,400. He's one of the guys.
Well, that's what I was saying. What I was saying is what we're going to get to is which of that value might be fishing.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't feel like at this moment now, I'm sure by the time we hit lock, there's going to be a ton of other pieces of news and guys sitting and all that stuff. Although maybe less so because nobody played yesterday. So maybe less so today. Hopefully.
So what we'll do is we'll go game by game. I'll identify what I have now as values. We'll talk about good spend ups, and then we'll kind of run some build just to see what type of stuff we would get. Now, again, it's not a slate where you're going to have to, like, thank God, like be around like all night long. But there are little windows, you know what I mean? Like to late swap at 7:30 before 8 o'clock, and you're going to be around. You may as well do it. Okay, so first game is actually one that I don't have too much going on. You know, I list all these guys by point per dollar. I don't see much of anything. And as far as spend ups go, even I really don't have much in this game at all. I mean, I would say that if there's anything, I'd say the game is probably like a stone pass.
It feels like that, especially because it's the first game. I just go back to the same thing I always like to do if I'm playing multi-entries. I just want to have some Paolo or Franz exposure. I don't want to have none of it because I feel like they both, 50 is 50 is what Paolo gets every single game. And yet, as always, he's projected. What is he projected at this week? 40. Every game, Paolo's projected at like 40 something, and every game he's projected at 42 on. You got him at 43. Saberson's got him at 41, which is just an offensively low number. I mean, how are we saying guys who average 50 in decent matchups should be 41 as a median? I just don't get it. I honestly don't. So that would be my take, I guess, taking one of Paolo. I like Paolo a little bit better than Franz, but I do think those guys as long shot plays are interesting.
So again, I'm getting better at this. So I'm actually going to be showing you from the TrueDFS.
Oh my God.
Yeah, template. And again, just to show again, like when you look at the projections, you do have access to several options here. And I like to also see like where even at this early juncture, where we might be a little bit different from each other. Mm-hmm. And so what we'll do is like we go through game by game. I'll just kind of make note of that. Like everybody will see on the left is SaberSim, the middle is Goldie, and the right is me. And I guess there's not too much of a difference here. So I just kind of like to look at it. I mean, just
it's big. And by the way, sometimes those 2-point differences, like for the cheap guys, can make all the difference.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's very true. And maybe we could add one of these days with template. We could add like a delta thing, like where there's the most deviation between projections or something like that.
That's interesting.
That could be interesting to see what's got room for adjustment. Mm-hmm. All right, Cleveland and Washington. Fortunately, this is another one for me that is not getting anything. And you mentioned Justin Champagne. I see. I'm not getting him like at all.
Good.
Maybe I didn't like update. Maybe I'll do the projections like the same as whatever. But I literally I have like nothing from this game. Let's just see the difference here because maybe there is a difference. No, we both have him at only like 18, 17 points at 3,400. That's not that big of a deal for me. I don't think.
Yeah, and I think that's a reasonable number. And I think that he doesn't again, he's going to occasionally just put up 10x because he's 3,400. It's just going to happen.
Well, you know what?
He's projected to play 17 minutes. You know what I mean? They're going to play the guys on the bench just as much. And again, this is a broken record. It sounds like it for me, but like I really have like the same exact feeling when I go into these slates of the low owned Donovan Mitchell play. If somehow this game stays close, Donovan Mitchell might put up 60 again. Darius Garland being back hurts that a little bit. So I would say probably only if he's out. But the guy who I think is the most interesting here that just can put up a number is Alex Sarr.
Ooh, okay.
Just no one ever plays him. And then he'll have his like 25 fantasy point games, but then he'll come out with like a 55 and a 60. I like him. And they're letting him sort of have like a little bit more go around. And the projections, am I missing something here? What do they have Sarr at? The projections just never like him quite as much. And he's also a really hard guy to project because he's like never hitting, like he hardly ever hits like the 35 number, but he's like at 28 or 25 or like 50. So those would be my large field plays, but like you, I would probably just prefer to wait and see what else we got.
Well, here's a guy that I want to talk about more as an example of how few points makes a difference. So look at Justin Pandy for a second. So you'll notice that Sabersham has him at 19, Goldie has him at 18, I have at 17.5, right? And so as a result, he's barely showing up for me because of that 1.5 point difference. But then the funny thing also is you look at the ownership, like most of your ownership is going to reflect what you think of the projection, right? So like all, Sabersham has him at 13, Goldie has him at like 10, and I have him at like 5, which makes sense if you buy into my projection. Like if it's 17.5, then he really shouldn't be owned more than 5% of the time. So when you're comparing them, it's something to point out. And the reason I bring it up is the other value guy I did want to kind of highlight here is this Bub Carrington.
Yeah.
So here it's kind of the opposite. Like Sabersham has him at 20.5, and I have him at 22.
Right.
So then you see, as a result, you look at the ownership, they have him projected at 5, and I have him at 15. So we're going to see where ownership kind of comes in a little bit later. But I mean, I think he's, I have him as a pretty reasonable bit of value, but I don't even I have him like rated like 10th or something like that.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. Yeah, that all makes sense. And by the way, Kaishan George is questionable. That's the other get wild play that I like, but also would potentially make all those guys, the Bub Carrington and the Bub Carrington would look like a good play if Kaishan George is out. And I think it's still a possibility. Kaishan George is just another one of those guys who like he'll put up 50 or he'll put up like 20. It's really hard to know what to do with him. He sort of fits the Alex Sarr role, but I'm starting to like what I'm seeing from Sarr. All right, Toronto and Atlanta, Sheets. What do you got here? Because I mean, on the Toronto side, it doesn't feel like there's a ton. And honestly, even without Trey, they kind of price guys appropriately. It's not super interesting to me.
Quickly looks all right, I think, at 6,200. I mean, not like priority or anything like that, but I think he looks fine. And then on Atlanta, I do have Porzingis as reasonable. And then also your man, the Jalen Johnson at 8,800. Not bad. I mean, none of these guys are like at the top of the list, but they're certainly top 10 for me. So you want to play either Jalen Johnson or Kristaps Porzingis, you can certainly do that. And the Toronto guys I have are quickly and always Scotty Barnes is always live. He had a big one the other day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And he's only 8,300, and he's sub 10%. You know what I mean?
It's very hard to figure. Look, I know I keep saying this about guys, but like,
hang on.
You have high volatility in new situations.
You need me?
What's that?
Okay, no, you called me and I asked you. Hold on, Bobby. He asked you if you knew me because of your recording, but I think you didn't respond. You're okay?
You never picked up. It's okay. It's fine.
I know. I texted you. I texted you because I was recording.
I'm going for a massage gas.
Okay.
All right. So look, I think Scotty Barnes is probably the best piece of this game, but not. And you could throw Jalen Johnson into the mix. I have a feeling that somebody from Atlanta is going to start taking on. I mean, obviously they priced up the Jalen Johnson, but I'm just having a hard time figuring out who that's going to be. I guess my hot wild take would be we should be getting ahead on Risa Shea. I think you're going to start seeing him more involved, and he put up 31 in the last game. Looked a lot better. 4,300. Maybe he's a piece of value I can get on board with because you're talking about low ownership. Nobody's playing him. and the ceiling is absolutely there. We've seen him put up 60 in real life games when he was 19 last year. Maybe that Reese Shea and Scotty Barnes would be the best plays there.
And this is another one when I'm kind of ahead of the market here on Jalen Johnson and Kristoff, which would explain why I like him a little bit more in the market, I think. But yeah. Okay. Detroit and Brooklyn. Okay. So speaking of what could be fishy value, what could be good value, I guess I got to ask. So this is the game, at least for me, that's getting all this point per dollar business. So I am getting from the Brooklyn side of the top point per dollar plays, 3 of the top 4 are from the Nets. That would be, and we just put it up right here, Noah, Clowney, Tyrese Martin, and actually for me, Terrence Mann. They have Day'Ron Sharp here as better value, but all these guys are looking at, approaching 6x, so why don't you tell me what you think about all that, and then let me just finish my thought. Then Jalen Duren from Detroit, and then also as far as just obviously as a raw spend up, you can certainly play Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, interesting what happened with Duren's projections. He's been great lately, but it's like literally, his projection is literally 10 points higher than it was. And I know with no Tobias Harris, but it's not like Tobias Harris is like actually Isaiah Stewart steals more rebounds than Harris does, so it's not really logical. But yeah, maybe more minutes. I guess that's part of it. You don't have to worry about losing some of your spots to Duren. But I mean, look, it's really hard to find things on both sides that I don't like here. I love Cade. I don't even think we're seeing him play his best basketball. I don't know if he's had like 2 games this season where he shot 50% from the floor. If that happens in this matchup, well, first of all, I don't know that Brooklyn can keep it close.
Right.
But I guess if I had to rank it in order, I like Cade. I would put Asar Thompson second. I would put Jalen Duren third. I would put Ron Holland fourth, and I would put Isaiah Stewart fifth. I think they're all, and I know it's a lot of guys, but I would have exposure to every one of them and probably double-digit exposure to every one of those guys. On the Brooklyn side, with no Cam Thomas, we got to just keep doing this. It's again, they bumped his price up. He doesn't project well. I just know what I see from Michael Porter Jr. I don't know, look, the 3 games without Cam Thomas, 48, 43, 53.
Yeah,
that's what he's put up. And he's 7K. And he's projected at, 34. You've got him at 36. So I like this Michael Porter Jr. play a lot. Then you have the chalk, Clowney, Tyrese Martin. We know what we're going to get. They're going to spread out the minutes as much as they can, which is annoying. Claxton, I guess in order, I like it. I like Porter. Well, I like the value. If you need the value, Clowney, then Martin for me, but they're close. And then I would go Terrence Mann next. And then in the spending a little bit up, I like both Claxton and Porter. So this is a really good game to target, in my opinion. You really just have to hope that Brooklyn keeps it close, which, that's what you get worried about, the dud, like, oh, the game ends like 120 to 80. That's possible.
Well, they're not going to keep it close unless Porter Jr. has a good game. I don't think so.
I don't think so either. That's very true. All right, Houston and San Antonio, fun little Texas battle. I like these Texas teams are a lot of fun. I've got some. Can I throw out before we get into this one? I got a few cool stats about Houston, and I don't know if it's true after the last game, but it was true through the first 6 or 7 games of the season. So the best anybody's ever done on offensive rebounding in the history of basketball, which is an incredibly high rate, and I don't think anybody else has been like above 31%. Think about that, Cheech. If you're rebounding, do you know what the Hawks, what Houston is at? Houston is at 42%.
Yeah,
42% offensive rebound rate. Now, on top, the other thing that I love about them, they also are shooting 45% from 3. That's an insane combination. You'd think they would beat everybody by 50. Anyway, that giant lineup has worked out very well for them so far, I guess is my point. But anything you like here from a DFS perspective?
30% is usually the target for what you want as far as offensive rebound rate. You got the 40 is like pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, one team's ever done 35.
Yeah.
Well, because Steven, they have, and the truth, and what's crazy is all the teams ever, Steven Adams is like on all of them. He's like the best offensive rebounder ever. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Cheats.
Oh, no problem. So Utah, San Antonio, you always have the same. Let me just see. This Jabari Smith. So he's not questionable for the first time ever. Okay, so that's good at least.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about that. I don't really see, at least from a point per dollar perspective, any of these guys in this game looking particularly good. As far as just points, boy, I it's kind of a hurtful, disrespectful projection I have on Wembanyama, I guess. I mean,
He's had a couple down games in a row, and teams are guarding him very differently. For what it's worth, they're sending immediate doubles with smaller guys, one guy fronting, one guy coming around the back, like every time he touches the ball.
so he
So
can't.
they haven't really figured out how to use him yet, and he also fouled out of the last game early, so that was part of it.
Yeah, so I'm probably, with this projection, I can't imagine getting any of them at 12-3. So this game to me looks kind of duddish.
Yeah, I think it's a great real life game. I think Tari Eason is still very much in play, even with Jabari Smith back. I just think he does so many things well, and you can fill up the stat sheet. But like, I just don't really want to go out of my way for anything here, except for to say, look, if I was going to make one take that might be a terrible take or whatever, I would be willing to risk any slate just on Wembanyama alone. In any matchup, really, because there's going to be plenty of 70s in there, 70 pluses. I just don't know that it's the best play tonight. I think it's probably a reach, which is why you're going to get him at like 1% if you did take that shot. So maybe a gamble you might want to think about, but that would be pretty much it for me. I don't mind if I ended up with any of the Houston guys, but I'm not trying to get to them.
Yeah, so Chicago at Milwaukee, the Josh Giddey season continues.
If the season ended right now, he might be the MVP along with Shea.
I know. It's what I'm saying. It's like this wasn't too recently. We were playing at 5,800. It's like
yeah.
But he's playing. He's earned this price tag, and there's enough value here where if you want to do something funky, you could play him and Giannis. And hope the game explodes. And these are the two guys that are going to end up having the ball. Very, very possible. I have those two guys as my top kind of just overall plays this week, today, Giannis and Giddey, and they happen to be in the same game. So I've been tempted to in hand builds, right, to do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Play some of the stupid fishy value from the next game, whatever, and then maybe something else shows up, and then you just play these two, and then hope the game goes to overtime and you win all the money or something like that.
Yeah, and it's hard to argue with what Giddey is doing. It's also like I just don't know. I don't know.
You just don't believe it, right? I mean,
no, I totally believe it. So I'm a huge Giddey person. I thought he was going to be the person who transformed OKC until they changed their whole team around. Then they had no use for him. Like, right. What do they need? And that's his big knock has been 3-point shooting this year. He's shooting 40-something%, I believe. So he's been really good. Anyway, I really like the. I like the Giddey play. I think that you could argue the projection may be low, and you've got him a little higher than Saber Sim, so he looks better on yours. I think that's really reasonable. I'm going to go with my other take that I think that if you're playing multiple lineups, you just force in at least some Buzelis every day. I know he's had 3 duds in a row. I have such belief in this kid. That's it. I just think that even if it's 1%, he might be above the field with that. I just really, really like this kid. If Dosunmu is out, by the way, Giddey is going to look a lot better even. And by the way, if Dosunmu's in, why is that a bad play for value? I mean, this guy, look, he's got a range of outcomes, but we're coming off 42 for him, and not the last game, but the last game that he played. I think if he comes back, they'll let him play his normal 26 to 32 minutes, somewhere in that range. I think he's an interesting value piece potentially. And then, look, it's really hard not to say Giannis is the guy to spend up for. So Giannis, the fact that he's cheaper than Wemby in this matchup against the Bulls, who play fast and aren't great defensively, I think Giannis is the clear spend up between those two at least. So love Giannis, love Giddey, and that was my long way of saying it.
So I mentioned we were talking about football earlier. We're talking about the Steelers and also the Raiders and just these teams that have these identities that never seem to change. Listen, the Steelers, they went on that run there where they were pretty much all offense when they had Roethlisberger and whoever. But basically, they were always kind of known as like a defensive team in general, and the Raiders always known as tough. it's kind of hard to believe this, but like the Miami Heat is like one of the fastest playing teams in basketball.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people have caught up with this, and I think that someone like LaMelo is like really live for a big score here. And so I do like him quite a bit. And from the Miami side, I'd love to play somebody. The only guy showing up for me, well, I have two guys, is Cattell Ware and Norman Powell, maybe. You know, tell me what you think about this game.
Yeah, I don't think I think it's impossible to judge. I have no idea if LaMelo is playing or not.
Oh, he's questionable? Oh, okay.
Yeah. If he plays, I agree with what you said, but I prefer Giddey.
Okay.
And also, like, they play fast. They still are one of the top 10 defenses in the NBA. So they're one of those teams that the offensive and defensive ratings are incredible. And the individual matchup for LaMelo is terrible.
Okay. But who do they have?
Regardless of who they want to put on him with Davion Mitchell, Norman Powell.
Okay.
But that doesn't really mean much when you play the way LaMelo does if you're going to play fast. You know what I mean? Because he's getting his points in transition. He's getting his stuff. He's still going to be able to do his thing against pretty much anybody.
Right.
So, yeah, like LaMelo, prefer Giddey. Weird to say in a similar price point. Never, wasn't ready to say that one. On the Miami side, I love Khalil Ware. Sign me up. I have this is, to me, the easiest play on the slate.
I like that.
Without Bam, I don't know why we wouldn't just, like, again, it's not, there's other games, there's other situations, there's foul trouble, there's things that happen with bigs, but I think this is a really clear spot. So I have it ranked Khalil Ware number one. I have Norman Powell number two, Jaquez number three. I actually think I would change that, though. I think Jaquez is maybe a little better. Then I have Wiggins, then I have Mitchell, but all of those guys very, very firmly in play for me.
Speaking of decent center plays, Nurkic finally smashed all those times in a row as chalk. In his last game, he's 6,300, still showing up as good value, not smash value. And there's a lot of good centers. As a matter of fact, I forgot to mention from that Bulls game, Jalen Smith is showing up as good value here at 3,500. Feels fishy, but I just figured I'd point it out. There's a lot of centers. So I do think Nurkic still looks pretty decent here. Utah, again, they don't give an F. I think that this game could put up a lot of points. I think Edwards is very live for a big number here, so I do like that. And Utah guys are pretty fairly priced, so I don't know if I'm going to really get there, but you can always play them. Keontae George and Markin and whatever. Minnesota plays decent defense though, so I do like Anthony Edwards in this spot though.
Yeah, I don't. This Nurkic thing, SaberSim's projection feels like psychotic, and I know it'll.
I have like 4 points lower than.
Yeah, it's psychotic to have him as really psychotic. I think it's a very high risk play to play as chalk in general. So if he's chalky, I would probably try to stay away from it. If he's not, it's fine, but it's not like a good match. It's obviously not a good matchup. Like. I'm not very into the Utah side of this personally.
Okay.
Great pace spot. I think Randall with Edwards back, I'm sort of off that one now. But I think Edwards is the one you just go for here, and that's pretty much all I have in this game is Edwards. Kind of feels bad though. You're supposed to play guys against Utah, but they're all priced with Anthony Edwards out, other than Edwards. So I just think it's Edwards. Maybe you could throw Gobert into the mix, but I don't think I really want to make any flag plants there.
Memphis against Dallas. This is the last game of this slate. Wonder if FanDuel has other games. I'll look at it in a second.
Yeah.
Dallas, Memphis. Daniel Gafford at 5K looks reasonable to me. I have him at almost 6X.
By the way, FanDuel does not have more games, just FYI.
They do not. Okay.
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much all that I got going on here. Not really getting a Cooper flag, not really getting a much anything except for some Daniel Gafford, actually.
This is another one that I feels like a doesn't have to. I don't know. Let's put it this way. Gafford and Nurkic at similar price points. I feel like Gafford is clearly the better play. I know he's not necessarily, they're not similar price points. But Gafford, like even cheaper, feels like a better play to me than Nurkic does, assuming, of course, that he does in fact start. And it's kind of surprising to me. I'm just double checking something. Why? This is the first time I've seen FanDuel not play the whole thing in a while. It's kind of weird. They usually, if there's later games, but there is a big late slate tonight. There's like the 50K for the lottery. You know what I mean?
Is that right?
Yeah, because there's those three. What is it? The two late games. The OKC, Sacramento, Golden State, Denver. I wish we could talk about those games so I could talk about how Russell Westbrook is become the most underrated player in the history of basketball. He's been unbelievable. This guy's playing for the minimum for the third year in a row, and he's literally starting. And when he's as a starter, he's been unbelievably good. Anyway,
maybe we'll have to fire that tonight. I don't know.
I might. That's maybe that's. Sorry, sweetie, I can't go to dinner, but no, it's all right. I could do one lineup for my phone or something.
I'm gonna do a build here now.
While you're doing that, I'll just finish my thoughts real quick about the Dallas situation because I think this is really important. I don't know what we're doing with Ja. This is the hardest thing to figure out in the NBA. It does feel like a timeline to where he's about to be traded. All of his talk sounds like it's going to happen. He says he lost his love of the game, all the things, and they suspended him. And then he came back and hasn't really been. He's been somewhat aggressive, but he's shooting terribly. Actually, he's been aggressive. He's had the ball in his hands a lot. It's a good matchup. I really don't know what to do with it, to be honest with you. I think that Ja is probably right to try to play him. I guess that's my take, and I'm going to stick to it. This kid Cedric Coward, just remember his name. He's going to be a stud. But yeah, Gafford, D'Angelo, and PJ Washington are the three who I would have from Dallas.
D'Angelo Russell?
Yeah.
Let's see.
So, I don't like love it. I don't. It's just it just is what it is. It's like I think he's a reasonable play. I don't think he's a great play. I don't think you have to go out of your way. And I think SaberSim also is way high on his projection. You know what? I'd rather have PJ Washington. I'd rather try and get to PJ Washington, I guess, here. That would be my take.
I noticed that you set up a session with the SaberSim guys to help with your issues. Did they help you or? Yeah,
there's certain things that they had made changes to, but yeah, they helped me. It was a very nice Andrew, not Andy. But he helped me out. He spent an hour with me, and there's just something weird going on with the way I want to do things because I like to use the classic version. I don't want to do things this way. And I was trying to say, asking him, hey, if I'm trying to put my imprint on the slate of what I think, am I doing this the most effective way? And
what were some of the things that they said, if you don't mind? What was
so one, there was a problem. They were not linking me up to the classic thing, so they weren't. The files weren't locking, so I couldn't get my tournaments to enter correctly.
Oh wow!
And then Jordan and him have told me somewhat similar things, but also a little bit different. Like Jordan was understood the idea of changing the projections, and I think also said the min max thing. I run into issues with the min max thing, especially late swapping. So I try to stay away from it unless I put it. And if I do, I have to put a salary cap like minimum 48.5 or whatever in basketball. It's been a little bit of an issue. But mostly it was talking about files that weren't reading and why they weren't reading and why my builds were not going to the right place.
That's very odd.
And showing up wrong. Well, it's because of the changes they made. And I think that's what happened. They were trying to get people away from a certain thing because it's sort of what happened last time. But we're all good now. And it says it's all working effectively.
So let's take a look and see what. Now again, I use the average of the projection just for the purpose of this, and we'll see what we ended up with here. Let's see. Where would I see that under no lineup? And this is like a little annoying. So I did enter these, but I don't see. Hold on. This was my build, right? Or is this FanDuel? Hold on. No, this was the NBA, and I did this. Oh, because I'm on SaberSim. Oops. So here's where I have to look. Sorry. All right. So as far as exposure goes, it looks as though Noah Clowney would be my top guy, like this net value, and then the Nurkic, Cattell Ware. Ooh, I like this. I like getting 30% Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely am kind of chilled with that. And then Giddy and Giannis. I wonder how much I'd have together. Boy, it's so funny. Like, and even though I didn't have Justin Champagne projected all that well, they're giving him to me anyway.
Yeah, I think that the answer is going to be there's going to be better value later, which means, of course, he's going to put up like 10x, like.
Yeah.
But I don't like the Champagne thing very much. But I like in general when we get a lot of value. But the truth is, like, all this value today doesn't feel like it's not like the other than Clowney. That's a cheap guy I know will play minutes. Tyrese Martin's a cheap guy I know will play minutes. But like Jalen Smith is still showing up as a reasonable play, and he just always looks like he's always the same play. He's always a backup center at 3,500. I don't think there's that much value personally, the way I look at this slate right now. But I think there will be a lot of real value because you're getting. I mean, some of those plays are not the most exciting. Put it that way.
Well, let's do. I mean, just because we're here. I mean, we'll do football like 20 minutes. We have time.
Yeah.
Let's do the FanDuel. And again, the way I like to do it first is let's upload my entry files. Very, very easy to do. And then download CSV template, and then put it up in here. And it's like what's one extra step than DraftKings, but still it's really, really quick. And then again, we will build lineups, and let's see. I think mine, yeah. So this one will, we'll shout out Goldie. We'll use Goldie's for here. So we use Goldie's projections and make no changes, and let's see what we end up getting.
I would change always. By the way, I would always try to again. I don't not as much for actually for NBA too. But if I'm using yours guys' projections, I actually think the most valuable thing is the ownership in NBA. And I think
so I left it on SaberSim's ownership, you're saying? Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
But that's okay. Like, I actually think just changing one, again, you're differentiating yourself in some way. That's good. But I often find myself using your guys' ownership only sometimes because I think it's a better representation. And I also think it drives everything.
Right.
So I don't know personally. And I find it more accurate than SaberSims at times.
Well, if that's the case, Bobby, then what you should do, and you could experiment with this, is actually using our ownership as the representative field lineups. You know what I mean? Because you know what that means. So when you're simming against when you're running the sims, what it's doing is it's comparing your 5,000 lineups or whatever to what SaberSim's field is, like what SaberSim believed the field is going to do.
Right.
Okay. And if you don't make any changes, that's what it's going to do. Now, if you believe that that our ownership is better than SaberSim's, then what you can do is use our ownership to create the field. You know what I mean? And I think in the NBA,
it's just really hard in the NBA because like something will happen. I have to often manually put in the ownership myself.
Right.
Because SaberSim, like the other, like there's a night where they had like a guy projected at like 0.5% owned because it happened 5 minutes before, and he was 65% owned of the slate. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So in that case, I put in like a 40 for him, so I got a reasonable number. You know what I mean?
Right. So the thing I want to stress to you is that it's less. Maybe we should talk about this offline. No, it's fine.
No, it's good. It's good.
Is that it's less important, like to use the ownership for the purpose of building the lineups, as it is for applying the sims, because regardless of what ownership you give it, like all you're talking about is what the first 5,000 kind of look like. You know what I mean? And it's the ownership is not going to really matter all that much. What's really going to matter is how your bucket compares to what the field is going to do. And what the field is going to do is determined by like this tab right here. So you see like contests. So when you run the sims, it says that it's going to compare it to flagship MME, which is what SaberSim's exposures are, like what SaberSim's ownership are. So if you use SaberSim's ownership as this field, then that's that's what's going to determine what you get. As opposed to, let's say instead I want to use I didn't change it to mine yet, but you could change it to our own ownership, and then you could then your whole sim is going to be different. So what I would recommend, just to screw around, is in NBA is to run everything with with our ownership as the contest field. I'll show you how to do that.
The problem is I just will never do it in NBA. It's the truth, because I just don't think it's possible to keep up with it fast enough. Even if Goldie updates and says 5 to 10 minutes to update. So I'm answering Jay's question, and Jay's asked this question like 100 times, and everybody else asked it too. No, I do not use Sheets and Goldie's projections for basketball. Sheets uses his projections, but he's uploading, but he's not going to update it every.
This is very important. Okay.
Yeah, so you do it before. You can do it before lock, but you better make sure you have the most recent updates, and there's been nothing that's transpired. It's a lot. I like it for every other sport. Yeah. Every other sport, absolutely. I use their projections, and I use them as reference points in the NBA. If nothing changed and I see a big gap, I can sort of split the difference or lean which way that I think it's going to go. But no, I tweak my own projections. I tweak the SaberSim projections, but mostly use SaberSim as the default. I use SaberSim ownership for basketball. For every other sport, I would say use Sheets, especially golf and football as well. But just make sure they're updated. And we have the little tool that tells you exactly when they were updated, so you'll see that. And Jay is a member of ours, but again, I really don't think you should be defaulting to Sheets and Goldie's projections for NBA, because there's just too much that changes. But you can use it as that reference point, like that.
You can use it to put your initial builds into the contest. Like, as long as again you have an update that's like as close to lock as possible.
Yes.
But as the slate goes on and you late swap, which is what you're supposed to do, I'm telling you, I'm not going to be updating.
There's no way. And even if you were, it still is not going to catch up in time. It's just
not no chance.
There's always going to be a different guy, and especially this time of the year, always a different guy early in the season to try out in the starting lineup. All of a sudden everything changes. It's just way too impossible.
Yeah. I will say a couple of differences here on FanDuel. In addition to Khalil Ware, Davion Mitchell is showing up as a much better play. Well, at least not much better exposure, at least on FanDuel.
Yeah,
and then
he gets a lot of steals.
And then, oh my God, to your point, I'm getting a 40% job. Look at that. I mean, that for a guy who literally might not want to play basketball.
Yeah, it's weird, but he's been his usage has been incredible. He can't make a shot, and it's very confusing. I don't know what's happening with him personally, but the rumor is that he's going to end up in Miami at some point, and we'll see.
And then my 180 on Memphis to win the championship is looking very, very thin right now.
Oh, that's a rough one. That's a rough one. I tried to talk you into the Spurs, but it's not like they're going to win it, but they're going to at least compete for it. But they were 30-1. They weren't as much fun as the 180-1. Or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we can do our thing. I've got to talk to this guy to make sure you got everything figured out.
Yeah. And the plan is that in 15 minutes to come back and do football.
Yep.
You're going to be back for that?
Yeah. I'm good. It'll just take a minute.
Okay. All right.